My daughter, who has always been well-behaved and obedient, suddenly started crying and insisting on going to Disneyland. She threatened to go on a hunger strike if I didn't take her. With no other choice, I took her there, while her father stayed at the company to continue working. After spending half a month there, I was exhausted, but my daughter was still clamoring that she hadn't had enough fun and wanted to stay longer. My boss had already urged me to return to work after taking so many days off. I immediately booked a flight for the next day to go back. Unexpectedly, in the middle of the night, I overheard my daughter calling her father, "Dad, is Miss Sasha feeling better? Mom and I are going back tomorrow. No matter how much I act cute, it's useless. Please quickly help Miss Sasha pack her things and leave our house. Don't let Mom find out." In the middle of the night, I turned over and suddenly couldn't feel my daughter sleeping beside me. I jolted awake and quickly got up. The bedroom door was open, and there was no light outside. In the quiet space, I vaguely heard my daughter's voice coming from the living room outside the suite. I frowned, wondering why the child was not sleeping and was outside at such a late hour. I got out of bed and walked out of the bedroom, only to see my daughter's small figure crouching under the balcony, holding a phone watch. "Dad, is Miss Sasha feeling better? Does she like our home? Mom and I are going back tomorrow." I originally wanted to go back a few days later so that Miss Sasha could stay at our house longer, but no matter how much I act cute, it's useless. Mom is so annoying, it's all her fault for being in the way. Otherwise, I could stay at home with you and accompany Miss Sasha. Dad, please quickly help Miss Sasha pack her things and leave our house. Don't let Mom find out. I, who was originally worried about my daughter, felt as if I had fallen into an ice cave in an instant. My mind was buzzing, and my blood seemed to freeze at that moment. I couldn't believe what I had heard. My beloved husband and the daughter I had cherished for 8 years were conspiring to deceive me, all for a woman named Sasha? Miss Sasha? Looking at the phone watch in my daughter's hand, I suddenly remembered that Miss Sasha was the calligraphy teacher at my daughter's tutoring class. This phone watch was a gift from her. At that time, I had asked my husband, Victor, to return it. How could a student accept such an expensive gift from a teacher? Victor agreed, but my daughter refused. She cried and said that this was a reward from Miss Sasha for winning first place in the group calligraphy competition. If we returned it, it would mean that I didn't recognize her achievement. With no other choice, I added Miss Sasha on Instagram and arranged to meet her, giving her a bottle of high-end perfume as a reciprocal gift. I never expected that this phone watch would become a tool for my daughter to communicate secretly with them. "Mom?" My daughter stood up and saw me, her eyes full of panic. I steadied myself and forced a smile. "Why are you not sleeping and doing here so late?" After all, she was a child. When lying, her eyes darted around. I just missed Dad and called him. "Mom, I'm so sleepy, I want to go to bed." As she spoke, she even yawned convincingly. As she passed by me, I still called out to her. My voice trembled with a hint of unease. "Do you love Mom?" My daughter turned around and threw herself into my arms, rubbing her little face against me, just like when she was 2 or 3 years old. Nina loves Mom the most, and also loves Dad the most. Watching my daughter's back as she returned to the bedroom, it was as if 2 little people were fighting in my mind. One said it might be a misunderstanding, while the other said I should look for clues. Once the seed of doubt is planted, it only grows deeper. Sitting on the sofa without turning on the light, I clicked on Miss Sasha's profile picture. When I added her as a friend, I had specifically selected chat only. This was the first time I opened her Instagram. The latest post was from today. What to do with a clingy boyfriend? The accompanying picture showed her lying on a bed in a sexy camisole, with a man's hand resting on her waist. Staring at the screen, my hands gradually began to tremble, and my breathing became rapid. Suddenly, a tear fell on the phone screen, followed by an uncontrollable flood. I threw away the phone, collapsed, and covered my face with both hands, tears streaming through my fingers. How familiar the background, the decorations, the bed, and even my photo on the bedside table were clearly visible. And the owner of that hand was none other than my husband of 7 years of dating and 9 years of marriage, Victor. I never thought that my husband would cheat on me. Just as I never thought that the man who loved me dearly would one day betray me. We were each other's first love. At 17, I met Victor in high school. I was always a top student, while he was the one teachers said would disturb classmates even when sleeping in class. Due to a class-wide mutual assistance program, I was assigned to be Victor's deskmate, responsible for supervising his studies. Initially, I really disliked him. Not only did he not study, but he also always disturbed me when I was studying. During lunch breaks, he would always draw circles on my back. During PE class when running, I couldn't keep up and fell behind, and he would always turn back from the front to run beside me, constantly mocking me. Some delinquent boys from the next class blocked me after school because I was pretty. He rushed over and fought with 4 or 5 of them, dislocating his arm to protect me. From that day on, my impression of him changed. Later, his grades did improve, but they were still far behind mine. To be in the same city as me for university, he applied to a second-tier university in the same city. On Christmas during our freshman year, he confessed his love to me, and we naturally got together. During the winter break, his father had an affair and divorced, and his mother developed depression and committed suicide after the school term started. He locked himself in his room for 3 days and 3 nights. When I saw him, he hugged me and cried bitterly, saying that he hated mistresses the most. He said, "Emma, you are the only family I have in this life. I, Victor, swear on my life that I will love only you in this lifetime. My heart, my body, my feelings all belong to you alone. If I ever betray you, may I die a horrible death." Later, after graduating from university, he met my parents, who were very satisfied with him. Then, we had a grand wedding. In the 2nd year after our marriage, I gave birth to the fruit of our love, nearly losing my life in the process. Victor named our daughter Nina, symbolizing that his promise to Emma would never change. We became a happy family of 3. Because of the child, Victor worked even harder and became a manager at his company within just 2 years. Then, I also got promoted. Life was getting better and better, but Victor started coming home later and later, often returning at midnight. Every time, he would hug me and act clingy. "Honey, I love you so much. We will be together for a lifetime." Each time, I felt very sweet. Friends and colleagues all envied me for having such a good husband. But when this facade of love was torn apart, the truth was so unbearable. I didn't continue to look at Sasha's Instagram. Based on a woman's intuition about a mistress, everything she posted was intended only for me to see. Just one piece of evidence was enough to confirm Victor's infidelity. There was no need for self-torture. I prepared the divorce agreement overnight and signed it. After getting off the plane, Victor appeared at the arrival gate, waving at us from afar. Our daughter saw him and ran straight into his arms. Victor hugged our daughter and then reached out to pull me into his embrace. His voice was aggrieved. "Honey, why did you stay away for so many days? Did you forget that there's a husband at home? I missed you so much." As he spoke, he tried to kiss me. Thinking about how his mouth had kissed someone else countless times, I felt nauseous. I subtly dodged and said lightly, "Don't mess around, there are so many people here." Victor pouted aggrievedly. Our daughter giggled, "Dad, you only think about Mom. Don't you miss me?" "Of course, I miss my little princess. Let's go home and see what Dad has prepared for you." I watched the father and daughter walking ahead, just like usual. If I hadn't overheard my daughter's secret phone call, would I have never found out in my lifetime? Back home, the house was clean and tidy. I immediately noticed the vase on the dining table. "When did you change the vase?" Victor was taken aback but then calmly explained, "I accidentally broke it a few days ago, so I bought a new one." "How is it?" "My taste is not bad, right?" I didn't say anything. It was obvious that this wasn't his taste. After so many years together, Victor had never cared about such things at home. Someone else had been in the house, And as for why the vase on the table was broken and what they had done on the table, I didn't know. I didn't want to think about it, I was afraid I would vomit. Carrying the luggage, I stood at the bedroom door, unsure whether to enter. "What's wrong?" Victor came over and asked me. I shook my head and went in. The bedroom looked the same as when I left, except that the bedsheets and duvet covers had been changed. If I hadn't seen that Instagram post, I might have thought it was all an illusion. Victor hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Honey, I missed you so much. Next time, don't stay away for so long, even if it's to accompany the child. You don't know how badly I sleep without you by my side. Look at my dark circles." As he spoke, he tried to kiss me. Thinking about how he had recently kissed and hugged another woman, made vows to her, and now was doing the same to me, my stomach churned. I subtly pushed him away. Before, I didn't know and thought this was his way of showing love. Now that I know, I realize that these were just his ways to compensate for his guilt from cheating, to ease his own conscience. Looking at his face, I couldn't help but clench my fists. Yes, his dark circles were so heavy. It seems that during the days I was away, this adulterous couple had been working overtime for excitement. His face was pale and sallow. It's a miracle he didn't die in bed. Victor looked at me puzzled. "Emma, what's wrong? You look so pale. Are you feeling unwell?" He reached out to touch my forehead, full of concern. "You don't have a fever." I stepped back. Maybe I'm just too tired these past few days and haven't rested well. Thinking of something, I added, "My parents said they miss the child. You can take her over later." Victor nodded. "I'll go and come back quickly. You can take a nap at home by yourself." As he said that, he quickly kissed me on the cheek. After he turned away, I resisted the urge to vomit and wiped my face vigorously. Listening to the sound of them leaving, I began to survey the bedroom. Although Victor had tidied it up well, there was no trace left. But since Sasha had gone to great lengths to enter my home, how could she not leave something for me to discover? I glanced at the perfectly smooth bed and lifted the mattress with both hands. Sure enough, there was a white lace underwear pressed under the edge. My fingers dug into the mattress tightly. At this moment, anger surpassed heartache. Who would have thought that in this warm home, there would be traces of another woman? I took out my phone and took a photo of the underwear. Then, I found a file bag and put it inside. Just as I finished, my mom called. Victor hadn't taken our daughter to my parents' place. They had been out for over an hour. Where had they gone? Although I had already guessed, I still called to confirm. The call was quickly answered. "Victor, my mom just called and said you didn't take Nina over. Where did you go?" It was a bit noisy on his end, but his tone was still gentle. "I forgot to tell you. It's about our daughter's calligraphy class. The teacher called suddenly today, saying that new textbooks were distributed today. We went to the tutoring center. Our daughter is right beside me. I'll let her talk to you." Soon, our daughter's sweet voice came through the receiver. "Mom, I can't go to Grandma's today. Miss Sasha is teaching new content today, and there's an evening class. Dad and I might be back very late. Mom, don't worry about us." Holding another phone, I looked at Sasha's Instagram update from 3 minutes ago. "So many people today said we look like a family of 3. Below was a picture, Sasha squatting halfway, with Victor and our daughter each kissing her on one side. Now, listening to their father-daughter lies. New textbooks? Evening class? I bit my lip hard, not letting go even when my mouth was filled with the taste of blood. I couldn't understand why a man couldn't control his desires and cheated, and why my own flesh and blood, whom I carried for 10 months, would also betray me. How bad must I be that my own daughter willingly helps her father deceive me and date the mistress? Suppressing the pain in my throat, I gently asked my daughter, "Nina, we are mother and daughter. Would you lie to Mom for someone else?" Even at this point, I still held a glimmer of hope for this daughter whom I had cherished since she was little. As long as she stood by my side, I could let bygones be bygones, and during the divorce, I would fight for custody with Victor. But reality slapped me hard again. Without hesitation, my daughter said, "Nina loves Mom the most." How could I lie to Mom? "Okay, Mom, I have to go to class now. Bye." Listening to the busy tone on the phone, I clenched my fists, letting tears fall, and laughed lowly. My heart was filled with desolation. Thinking about the years I had devoted to this family and to my daughter, it was incredibly ironic. If Victor's betrayal made me angry and heartbroken, then Nina's actions chilled me to the bone. This home, which I had decorated with my own hands, now felt like every corner was filled with their disgusting scent. I couldn't stay a second longer. I picked up my still unpacked suitcase, placed the divorce agreement on the table, and drove to a hotel to stay. I also sent Sasha's underwear directly to her workplace and sent screenshots of her Instagram to the tutoring center's principal, writing, "Your institution's female teacher's underwear was left on my bed. It has been sent to the school." From discovering Victor's infidelity to moving out of the house where I had lived for 9 years, it turned out that 16 years of relationship could end in just a few short hours. Actually, when I found out about Victor's affair, I thought about making a big scene, slapping him a few times, and asking him why he deceived me. I wanted to cry my heart out. I even kept doubting myself, wondering if I had done something wrong, otherwise why would both Victor and Nina like Sasha? Later, I thought it through. I shouldn't punish myself for someone else's mistakes. Perhaps Victor had finally revealed his true nature after all these years. As for Nina, I can only say that genetics are too strong, she has completely inherited her father's traits. But if we talk about inheritance, it probably started from Victor's father. I kept my phone on, waiting for Victor to call after seeing the divorce agreement when he got home. It wasn't until 8 p.m. that Victor called. His breathing was a bit unsteady, and his words were full of concern. "Emma, are you feeling better? Our daughter has finished class, and I took her directly to your parents' house. There's something at the company that requires overtime today. I clearly heard Victor's moan. After all, we had been together for so many years, with countless intimate moments. I knew exactly what that sound meant. So, he couldn't wait even for a moment now. During the day, he took our daughter to meet her, and now he didn't even have time to go home and look at the divorce agreement. While lying to me on the phone, he didn't let go of her. I gripped the phone tightly, even though my heart felt like it was being torn to pieces. I still pretended to be calm. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I just hiccuped." Victor held down Sasha's mischievous head. Sasha leaned in to kiss him. Victor didn't expect her to be so bold and pushed her away, explaining guiltily and flusteredly, "Emma, if you're hungry, order something for yourself. Take care of yourself. I still have work here, so I'll hang up first." After hanging up the phone, Victor pulled Sasha into his arms. "Didn't I tell you not to make trouble? Why don't you listen?" Sasha cooed, "Are you so afraid of her finding out? If she knows, wouldn't it be perfect for you to divorce?" At these words, Victor's face darkened. "I told you before we got together that I would not divorce." Seeing him angry, Sasha quickly kissed him to please him. "Okay, don't be angry. Don't ruin the mood." Victor's eyes lit up, and he eagerly kissed her lips. I sat by the hotel's bay window, recalling every moment we had together. Actually, as early as 2 years ago, every time we were in bed, he had said more than once, "Emma, your skin is too delicate." I never dared to use force, always afraid that I might hurt you. I would shyly ask him if he wasn't satisfied. He would hold me, his voice always so tender, "Emma, I love you. I cherish you very much." So, he didn't suddenly become corrupt. He had already had such thoughts, or perhaps at that time, he had already tasted the thrill of madness. I didn't want to think about it anymore. In these years, he had touched other women and then came back to be intimate with me. It was truly disgusting. After so many years of relationship, it would be a lie to say I wasn't sad. When I learned that he was intimate with another woman, I felt like the sky had fallen. The pain was so intense that I couldn't breathe, and I even thought of ending my life. But when I sobered up, I realized how foolish that thought was. What good would my death do? Victor might be sad, but afterward, he would be even more unscrupulous with Sasha. He might even marry her. That would be sacrificing myself to fulfill them, and in the end, it would be my parents who would suffer a fate worse than death. Until I saw the sky turning pale and the sun slowly rising, a new day began. I tidied up and went to the office early. The marriage had to end, but work and life had to go on. After taking half a month off, work had piled up like a mountain. When my colleague Anna brought documents for me to sign, she didn't forget to tease, "Emma, how was your trip to Disneyland? Why do you look so haggard? Your eyes are swollen too." I touched my eyes and forced a bitter smile. Maybe I'm just too tired. I haven't rested well these past few days. Anna patted my shoulder. "Let's go out for a good lunch, it's on me." I shook my head. "Come on, tell me what Disneyland is like. I've never been there. When I have a vacation, I'll ask my boyfriend to take me too." I had no choice but to agree. After working for another half hour, an urgent ringtone sounded. It was Victor calling. It seemed he hadn't gone home all night. At this time, it was probably when Sasha arrived at work and was called by her leader to identify the underwear, and then he received the news. That's why he called. The moment I answered the phone, I was curious to know what he would say. Victor's anxious and flustered voice came through the receiver immediately. "Emma, I can explain. It's not what you think. There's nothing between me and Miss Sasha. That photo was taken at our daughter's request. Yesterday was Miss Sasha's birthday. When we went for the class, she hadn't eaten yet, and our daughter said she was hungry, so we went out to eat together." I didn't expect that even at this point, he was still lying to me. Did he think I was a fool who would believe whatever he said? So, in the end, I had misjudged him. Is that so? What a coincidence. And the clothes were accidentally left behind by her? "Emma, please don't ask any more, don't ask. We've been together for so many years, you have to believe me. No matter what happens, I love you. I have never stopped loving you for a moment. We have a lovely daughter, we are a family. Emma, you are the person I love the most important person. Let's not say anything, let's pretend that some things never happened and keep everything as it is, okay, Emma, okay." By the end, Victor's voice had taken on a crying tone, becoming choked up. He kept asking me over and over on the phone, "Okay," pleading with me. It was just like when he was 18, beaten black and blue by the delinquents from the next class to protect me. I was at a loss, watching him with tears streaming down like a flood. At that time, he used his only movable left hand to wipe my tears. Even though his face was pale with pain, he still gently coaxed me, "Emma, don't cry, okay? Emma, your crying breaks my heart. Please don't cry, okay? Emma, I'm fine, I won't die. I won the fight, I beat them all away. In the future, if anyone bullies you, I'll fight them off for you." Looking at his silly appearance, I couldn't help but ask with red eyes, "Victor, what if the one who bullies me in the future is you?" His trembling voice continued, filled with indescribable panic and fear. I asked him the same question from back then again, "Victor, what if the one who bullies me in the future is you?" There was sudden silence on the other end of the phone, only heavy breathing. I knew he remembered. After a long while, he spoke firmly, "Emma, I won't separate from you. The divorce agreement is on the table, sign it." After saying this, I hung up the phone directly. I covered my chest, tilting my head back to prevent tears from falling. Even though I had been hurt so many times, each time felt like my heart was being gouged out, the pain piercing through my soul. How many 16 years does a person have in a lifetime? Victor occupied most of my life, the most beautiful memories. Now, I'm told that this beauty has long rotted, blackened, and stunk. How can I accept this? I, Emma, am not someone who can't let go. Even if separating is bloody and painful, I will consider it as a phoenix rising from the ashes. I went to eat with Anna. The restaurant she chose was a 10-minute drive away. The receptionist took us directly to a private room. Unexpectedly, I ran into Victor there. To be precise, Victor was in the private room next to ours. Their door was half open, and my colleague saw him first. "Emma, the person inside looks like your husband." Victor often picked me up and dropped me off at work and ordered afternoon tea for my colleagues, so over time, they all became familiar with him. I followed her gaze and looked over. The people in the private room were all Victor's friends. Victor was sitting with his side to the door, and Sasha was sitting next to him. "Victor, what should I do now? The whole school knows, and I've lost my job." As she said this, she started crying. Victor just had a gloomy face, his brows furrowed, and didn't comfort her. One of his brothers spoke up, "Little sister-in-law, don't cry. Victor is definitely thinking of a way. If worst comes to worst, Victor can still support you." The others also chimed in. I listened to their conversation numbly. 2 hours ago, Victor had called me, begging me to pretend nothing had happened. Now, he was back with Sasha. Victor valued Sasha so much that even his friends accepted her, calling her little sister-in-law. I remembered that at every gathering, they called me big sister-in-law. So, it wasn't out of respect but to distinguish between us. Anna also noticed something was wrong. She looked at me with concern and pulled me to stand by the wall. Sasha, basking in favor, said, "Victor, since she has proposed divorce, it's perfect for us to get married." Then, there was a loud crash of a wine glass shattering, followed by Victor's furious voice, "I will not divorce Emma. Emma is my only wife in this life, no one can replace her." Sasha started crying aggrievedly. One of the brothers spoke up, "Victor, now that big sister-in-law knows, you know her temperament. If she insists on divorce, what will you do?" Victor said confidently, "She won't. I know her, she loves me very much and loves our child. All these years, she has devoted her heart to the family, to me and our child. Our 16 years of relationship can't be severed just like that. As long as I sincerely apologize and beg for her forgiveness, it's only a matter of time before she compromises. She loves me, just as I love her." Even though I had already sentenced Victor to death in my heart, hearing these words still caused a dense pain in my chest. How ridiculous that my years of dedication to the family and our relationship had become, in his eyes, a bargaining chip to manipulate me into compromising. Seeing my poor complexion, Anna held my hand and whispered, "Emma, do you want me to accompany you inside to confront this adulterous couple?" I didn't say anything but directly pushed the door open and stood at the entrance. One of them heard the sound and subconsciously looked up towards the door. The moment he saw me, the food dropped onto the table. Big sister-in-law, why are you here?" As his words fell, the private room fell silent. Victor pushed Sasha, who was leaning on him, away and looked at me in panic, striding towards me. "Emma. I'm just having a meal with my brothers, it's nothing." I quietly looked at the people in the private room. As my gaze swept over them, they all guiltily lowered their heads. Only Sasha's eyes were filled with triumph, almost overflowing. She followed Victor, linking her arm with his, smiling provocatively at me. The next second, Victor shook her off as if pricked by a hedgehog. "Emma, it's not what you think, I can explain." I refocused my gaze on this man before me, whose appearance was familiar but whose heart I could no longer see through. "Victor, I don't want to talk about what you've done anymore. Sign the divorce agreement quickly, don't waste each other's time. After all, your next partner is waiting." Perhaps because he had boasted to his brothers earlier that I wouldn't divorce, and now being proven wrong, he couldn't save face. He grabbed my wrist, his tone becoming much firmer. "Emma, let's talk about this at home. I won't divorce. Nina is still so young, she can't be without her mother. We've been together for so many years, I can't live without you either. Some things should be stopped in moderation." Stop in moderation? He was telling me not to make a fuss and to stop in moderation, not that his cheating was wrong. I directly shook off his hand and slapped him across the face. "Victor, you don't deserve to mention all these years. The Victor the first loved died long before he betrayed me. Even at this point, you still want to use our child to blackmail me. Let me tell you, When Nina conspired with you to deceive me and helped you and your mistress hide things from me, I had already given up on this child. Victor didn't expect me to say that. He stepped back 2 steps, looking at me in disbelief. Sasha quickly supported him and glared at me. Why did you hit him? He is with me, shouldn't you reflect on yourself? I sneered and slapped her twice. Sasha screamed, covering her face. I pointed at her, my aura fully unleashed. You slept with my husband, came to my home, fooled around on my bed, left that underwear, and posted so many photos on Instagram, all just to let me know, right? Being a mistress has given you a sense of superiority, hasn't it? Since you chose to be a mistress, these 2 slaps are what you deserve. Even at this point, this man is still begging me not to divorce. You can't even make him marry you, you're such a failure as a mistress. You are the one who should reflect on yourself, whether you're not competent enough in this role, whether you're not trying hard enough in bed, that's why you can't rise to the position. Sasha was stunned by my words. She turned her head aggrievedly to look at Victor, hoping he would stand up for her. But Victor didn't even glance at her, his eyes were only painfully fixed on me. Sasha, in a rage, lunged at me like a madwoman. Anna, who had been holding back, immediately stepped in front of me, grabbed her hair, and threw her aside. This is eye-opening. A mistress wants to hit the wife. As a mistress, you should have the awareness of a mistress. Not to mention getting slapped twice, even if everyone condemns you, it's not undeserved. I didn't want to look at them anymore. Those who could get along so well with Victor and accept Sasha were not good people. I pulled Anna to leave, but Victor still couldn't help calling out to me. I didn't turn back, just said calmly, sign it, divorce. After saying this, I left with Anna without looking back. In the end, we didn't have that meal. Anna cursed the adulterous couple all the way, while I remained silent. Because I had already passed the stage of anger and heartache. Now, I just wanted to divorce quickly and never see Victor again. In the following days, Victor didn't contact me. I had to contact him myself, urging him to proceed with the divorce. His phone rang, but no one answered. Nina had been staying at my parents' house. I indirectly asked my parents and learned that Victor had told them 3 days ago that he had to go out for something. As for where he went, they didn't know. Nina took the phone midway and chatted with me about many things. After all, she was my own flesh and blood. Even though I was disheartened, I couldn't be ruthless towards her. After much preamble, she finally asked her question, Mom, I haven't seen Miss Sasha for a long time, I miss her. I closed my eyes and smiled self-mockingly, she'll be fine. Maybe she'll become your mother later. Really? Nina exclaimed in surprise. I couldn't listen anymore and hung up the phone directly. The next day, while I was at work, Sasha came to me. She looked much haggard these days. As soon as she saw me, she started shouting without regard for her image, Emma, did you hide Victor so he can't see me? Let me tell you, he doesn't love you anymore. He and I are the most compatible. You probably don't know, but every time he told you he was working overtime at the company, he was actually in my bed. He has said countless times that he loves me the most. I just gave her a faint look, so Victor wasn't with her. I sneered, what do you mean by most compatible? In bed? Then maybe now he has found someone even more compatible and is in a gentle embrace, so he doesn't care about you. With just one sentence, Sasha broke down. She screamed like a madwoman. To avoid disturbing others, I had the security guard escort her out. I wasn't worried about Victor's safety, I was just concerned that he was deliberately delaying the divorce. 2 days later, Victor called me. He asked to meet and talk. There was actually nothing to talk about, but he chose our high school alma mater as the meeting place. I hadn't been back to high school since starting university. After getting married, my parents also moved near us, and the house back home was rented out. So, it had been almost 10 years since I last went back. I agreed. It was good this way, let's end where it began. The day we arranged to meet was a Sunday. The old security guard was still there. I remember when I was in school, he was not yet 40, and now his temples were gray. He recognized us at a glance. "Hey, it's you too. Why do you have time to come back today? I haven't seen you for many years." I smiled and greeted him. The uncle looked us up and down, saying with relief, "I never thought that the skinny little girl who was always the first to arrive at school has now grown into a graceful lady. Back then, this boy was always sticking to you like a little tail, and now seeing you still together, it's great. You're married, right?" I pursed my lips and didn't speak. Victor smiled and said, "Not only are we married, but our daughter is already 8 years old." I glanced at him but didn't say much. Divorce isn't something you need to tell everyone you meet. The uncle said good several times and then opened the door for us to enter the school. Looking at the familiar campus, classrooms, and desks, my thoughts were pulled back to that afternoon in high school. The wind blew the curtains, and the leaves of the camphor tree outside were reflected on them. I lay on the desk, the sunlight flickering, making me frown. That boy lifted his exercise book and shaded me from the sun for an hour. "Emma, do you remember that seat? That's where we used to sit." Victor's voice brought me back to reality. The person in my memories no longer existed. Memories are called memories because reality is too cruel, and things have changed. I looked at him with cold eyes. "Didn't we come to talk about divorce? We can talk now." Victor didn't answer my question directly. "Emma, you haven't eaten yet, right? Let's talk after eating." On the way here, I saw that the snack shop opposite the school is still open. "Let's go check it out." At the snack shop, Victor ordered the snacks we used to eat in school. The proprietress recognized us sharply. "After so many years, your taste hasn't changed, you still love these. How about it, young man, did you win this girl's heart?" Victor scratched his head and smiled. "I did, she's my wife now, and we have an 8-year-old daughter." The proprietress smiled and said she would give us a dish for free, adding that not many people are as happy as us, from school uniforms to wedding dresses. I directly refused and explained, "No need to spend extra, happiness is just an illusion. We're getting divorced." The proprietress looked at us awkwardly and tried to smooth things over. "There are many frictions in life. You young couple have been together for so many years and have a child, just explain things clearly." Victor nodded, as if he had found someone to speak for him, eagerly agreeing, "Yes, Emma, let's talk things through properly. Don't keep mentioning divorce." I half raised my eyes and said calmly, "He cheated, and the mistress has even entered our home." Now, not only did the proprietress glare at him, but even the other people in the shop looked at him as if he were trash. I sneered, got up, and left. Victor chased after me with a dark face. "Emma, I begged you so much, what more do you want from me?" I stopped, looked at him, my eyes filled with nothing but coldness and disgust. "Divorce. Nina goes with you, I don't want her. Considering you're taking the child, I won't make you leave with nothing. We'll split the assets 50-50, and my half of the property will be converted to cash for me." Victor held his head, pacing irritably on the spot. "Emma, must you insist on divorce? You don't even want our daughter, how can you be so heartless?" He called me heartless? How could he say that? "You betrayed our relationship of over a decade, aren't you heartless? When you brought that woman into my home and fooled around on my bed, weren't you heartless? When you had our daughter help you hide things from me, weren't you heartless? When you used our relationship and our child to make me compromise, weren't you heartless? Now, I just want a divorce. I don't want to stay in this disgusting marriage, and I don't want to see you, a liar full of disgusting lies. What right do you have to call me heartless? What qualifications do you have? Back then, when your father ran off with his mistress and abandoned you and your mother, what did you say? Your mother was driven to depression by his mistress. Are you trying to drive me to death too?" My words were spoken one by one, and I moved closer with each step, forcing Victor to retreat until he sat down on the ground. He was already sobbing uncontrollably. "Emma, I really know I was wrong. It was because of too much work pressure, and I couldn't vent it on you. You are the person I love the most, how could I bear to be rough with you? She just happened to appear at that time and I was bewitched. I have always loved you. I never thought of divorcing you or being with her for long. With trembling hands, Victor tapped on his phone to show me. I've already cut ties with her. Look, I blocked her. Emma, can we start over? His voice was so fearful, so flustered. What was he afraid of? Was he afraid of losing me? Did his tears prove that he cared about me? But then, why was there Sasha? At this moment, I suddenly understood. He didn't realize his mistake or repent, he just had no other choice. If I hadn't found out, he would have continued to pretend and deceive me. He just didn't expect me to be so resolute. I looked around, my eyes reddening. Victor, do you remember this place? Victor nodded vigorously. Of course, I remember. This is where I fought for you, and from that day, your feelings towards me changed, you didn't hate me anymore. Emma, think about how we were back then, give me another chance. I tilted my head back to hold back the tears, but they still fell. I gently wiped away the tears and forced a smile at him. Victor's expression relaxed a bit, thinking I had forgiven him. But my next words made his face turn pale. Victor, that day I asked you, what if the one who bullies me in the future is you? You haven't answered me yet. I want you to answer me now. Emma. Speak. Victor shook his head. Emma, don't. I stepped forward, bent down, and grabbed his collar with both hands. With red eyes, I glared at him and roared, what the hell did you say back then? Answer me. Tell me. No, Emma, give me a chance. I promise to be faithful to you alone from now on. I slapped him hard. Answer me, what the hell did you say? Victor, if I ever bully Emma, make Emma hurt, or make Emma cry, I will punish myself by never seeing Emma again in this life and enduring a lifetime of longing. Victor's voice seemed to overlap with that of the boy from over a decade ago. The vow from back then still echoed in my ears. I let go of him and stepped back 2 steps. So, let's divorce. You and I will never see each other again. Victor slumped, holding his head and crying bitterly. I didn't look at him again and turned to leave. Victor finally agreed to the divorce. He gave me all his property, including the house. I didn't refuse, because who would complain about having too much money? The divorce certificate could only be obtained after a 1-month cooling-off period. During this time, I also told my parents about it. They didn't say much, just sighed lightly. Victor took Nina away. He rented a house and moved out with our daughter. I listed our house with a real estate agent, planning to sell it. During this period, Sasha, knowing we were divorcing, kept coming to please Victor. On the last day of the cooling-off period, I returned to my parents' home after work and saw Nina hiding inside the unit door. When she saw me, she ran into my arms, rubbing against me and hugging me tightly. Mom, I miss you so much. I know I was wrong, I shouldn't have lied to you. I'm not a good child. Can Mom forgive Nina? Nina can't live without Mom. It's been so long since Nina saw Mom. Dad said you're getting divorced, and I won't see you anymore. Mom, are you abandoning Nina? I pulled her out of my arms and squatted down to look at her. The child with tear-streaked face no longer stirred my compassion. You will always be my child, and I will fulfill my responsibilities as a mother, but I will no longer love you. Do you understand? No, Nina doesn't understand. Nina doesn't want to leave Mom. If you don't understand now, you will in the future. I stood up and called Victor to come and pick up Nina. When Victor carried Nina away, she was still clutching my clothes, crying and shouting not to leave. I pulled her hand away and turned to leave without any hesitation. The moment I got the divorce certificate, I felt an immense sense of relief throughout my body. Victor looked at me and still asked, Emma, can we still? I directly cut off all his hopes. We have no relationship anymore, and I don't want to see you again in this lifetime. I didn't go so far as to expose his affair at his company. After all, he still had to raise the child. But Sasha was different. She went to his workplace every day to make a scene, shouting that Victor had slept with her and was irresponsible. If he didn't marry her, she would come to his workplace every day to cause trouble. Under the strange looks from his colleagues and leaders, Victor voluntarily resigned and planned to develop in another city. But Sasha wouldn't let him go. After repeated failed attempts to force marriage, Sasha, in a frenzy, drove her car towards them. To protect his daughter, Victor was directly hit and sent flying. Sasha was arrested on the spot, and Victor was rushed to the hospital. Thanks to timely rescue, he survived, but his legs would never stand again in this lifetime. Perhaps this was his retribution.